Welcome everybody to Finance for Musicians and Entertainment Companies. This is such a very exciting topic. It's a very informative panel, and all of you being the experts, we are here obviously to help our artists as they start from the very beginning, or those that are more seasoned. We're all here to give them a little bit of more of our expertise, whether it be like City National Bank. We consider ourselves trusted advisors. I look at all of you here on this panel discussion just as similar as that. So whether it be you in the business management side, as well as the label side, attorneys, you name it, we all are experts for our artists. So without further ado, I do want to introduce each of you guys. I'll start from the very bottom with Pilar. I have you on my list here under Prager Metis. You are a business manager. It's pretty exciting to meet you. I know you've dealt a lot with our artists, so welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you too. Yeah, I'm a director in the Arts and Entertainment division of our firm. I also lead Latin Entertainment, which is a very strong side in our firm we want to develop. And I'm very happy to be here with this great panel and great professionals.
Perfect. Thank you. Matthew Limones from Sound Exchange. So nice to see you here. I know you come with a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Sound Exchange. You're going to be able to share a little more in a bit about our royalties and how artists can kind of basically get more for what they obviously do for their talent, right? So Absolutely. We'll start with you in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate the invitation. It's great to be back at the LAMC, everybody.
Thank you. Juan Torres. Jose Juan Torres, attorney CPA for Torres LLC. Thank you for being a part of this panel as well. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here at the LAMC. So let's start talking.
Exactly. So Angie, nice to see you again. You're like the veteran out there, right? Everybody knows you. So you come also with lots of wealth of knowledge. So welcome, and I look forward to you sharing a little bit about what you have to offer for a lot of the artists and the advice that you have for them.
Thank you.
Elsa?
Just some background. Yes. I'm going to be doing, I'll be giving, I think I, along with Jose Juan Torres, who I affectionately refer to as Che, we're going to be talking about the legal aspects.
Excellent. Thank you. Elsa, thank you for being a part of this. You are the CFO, Executive Vice President of Operations for Universal Music Latin America. Thank you for being a part of this. I think a lot of our artists will find it very useful to have someone like yourself on this panel and hear your expertise.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Anna. It's nice to see you again. And thank you for inviting me for this panel. And
wonderful.
It's my first time, so thank you.
Thank you. Now let's get started, everybody. I want to hear a little bit about, given that the fact that we have a large amount of artists here at the LAMC, what are some of the sources of income that each of you are seeing coming from the creative talents prior to COVID? What was the music income sources, and what has changed in the streaming era? Can maybe Matthew or Pilar, can you guys maybe share a little bit of your thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, before the pandemic hit us, I was like, the main source of income was touring, in my opinion. Spring and summer is usually the biggest season for us. All the European tours are coming to the US, plus also we have a lot of clients from South America coming to tour. We have all the summer festivals. Then it was like pretty busy before the whole pandemic. Other source of income that my clients I usually seek will be streaming, royalties, merchandise deals, product endorsements, sponsorships. But I think the biggest source of income for my clients are touring income and merchandise sales. That's the reason that this pandemic has been catastrophic for our industry. It's been like really, really bad. But they still have royalties in streamings, and also they are relying a lot on the merchandise deals. A lot of the fans are trying to support our clients, buying their merchandise, going online and buy a t-shirt or buying something to help them to get by.
Right.
Because not everybody
Right. They
is
have
a
to get
big,
creative.
exactly.
Since Sound Exchange is on the streaming side, I can speak on the streaming side that streaming has, been a very important income for artists, especially lately. And I mean, even before the coronavirus, it's really imperative that these artists realize that these are your rights, these are your royalties from, represented from an income stream that doesn't depend on your live music performance. So even so, I think even in this moment, I think they need to realize, and a lot of artists need to understand that you have different copyrights in the industry. And I think that your recorded music is a copyright that you can live from in terms of your royalties. It's an ongoing revenue stream that even if you're not out there performing, it's important that you understand you can still make money from your copyrights. And I was just reading an article in Billboard the other day about how it talked about, the way that this whole live, stream thing from your living room is the thing now. And it's a landscape that's kind of been, it's an uncharted territory pretty much, because, this is brand new in terms of your publishing rights and your recorded music rights. Like, how does that work when you do have a video that you do live stream on Instagram, and how you're making money from those sources? So it's important to kind of keep abreast and understand, like, what are the new ways that you can be making money, especially now? But streaming has always been, since its beginning, a revenue stream that you definitely need to pay attention to. So, and Sound Exchange is there for you. So you gotta know, and you gotta register with Sound Exchange.
That's wonderful. And I was actually going to ask you, so what are those steps that they need to take if they do need to, whether it be that they sign up with you at Sound Exchange, what are the processes and where do they start?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, so because we're the organization that, stands up for your rights as a performer on recorded music and as a copyright owner, there is a registration process. Because we're designated by the government to do what we do. These streaming services that we license don't have to go to you as an individual nor as a copyright owner to play your content. And in turn, you have to realize that you have to come forth and claim these royalties. So because we're designated by the government, we issue the statutory licenses for services that are, functionable over internet, satellite, and cable radio. And your music streams, and you come forth and you fill out a whole registration. It's a registration process. And Angie and Jose Juan know this process very much. They work with global top artists, and even those artists, when they're successful and they're moving up fast, it's important to understand that there is a process to register online. You go to soundexchange.com. That's the first part. And then I would say the second part would be to actually go in and claim your repertoire correctly. And I know that we might go into some questions about data in just a little bit, but it's so important that these artists realize that they need to come forth and claim these royalties for their copyrights. And, understand that a publisher is a publisher and a record label is a record label based off of two different copyrights. So it's important to understand those points when you're coming forth and you're claiming your royalties.
Right. And, and that's one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this panel, right, is to help educate them. It's almost like a 101. They have and are working hard doing their talent, right? They're doing what they do best, which is either writing music or out there doing their traveling and playing and, doing their act. But leave it to someone like ourselves that can provide better service in terms of guiding them, right? So that being said, whether it be Juan, Jose, or Angie, can you give me a little bit more information on what have you been able to provide to your clients during this COVID time? This pandemic has caused so many issues for so many artists. What form of economic relief have you sought out for your artists during this time? And are artists taking advantage of what's currently out there, whether it be through the PPP process? What is it that they're actually working towards at this point?
Go ahead, Che.
Well, we have been working with the governmental aids that were recently enacted, specifically with the PPP and SBA loans. since those are, in terms of my clients, you know, they have their corporations, they have payrolls, they have the people are working under those corporations, and I would say that it's only been 60 days, 65 days, so they are doing pretty much well during these days. But I don't know what will happen, as you were saying, that this is a Band-Aid that only lasts a few more days. I'm not sure. At this moment, they are calm and business are running pretty much well, because this will be 2 months. But I'm not sure if we do this panel in the next 30 days, how will be their current situation, since I think that this is gonna last for maybe 12, 18 more months. So, and we have to be creative, for right. them, because I'm thinking that no live touring, no live events, that will create another situation in their finance in the next 12 months. So right. You know, the PPP and the SBA are working for now, but I'm not sure how it's gonna end up at the end of this year. I think that what we are looking for, what we are envisioning, is that this is gonna be, we will be back on the road by fall 2021, and that's not sure how we'll be working in terms of finance, since there are many other months, and if there's no other alternative in terms of the governmental aids, this right. is going to be a tough road.
Well, and to that point, I think it's important that, you know, because I think that a lot of the audience might be getting started and might not have the sophistication to have financial advisors, but in order to even take advantage of the PPP, which is the Paychecks Protection Program, you have to create a company and you have to pay yourself a salary, mm-hmm. you know, and respectfully, I love artists, but they don't have a lot of fiscal discipline for certain things. And there has to be, in order to take advantage of these things, you have to be aware of what the rest, and you have to treat this as a business. This is a business. This is not just a hobby. This is a career that you love to do, and that's great. But you know, with that, there comes certain responsibility.
You know, I completely agree with you, Angie. I think that it's our goal. You know, myself as a banker, I'm always giving them the advice of the 101s of being able to preserve mm-hmm. their monies, right? Which leads me into my next question of what kind of advice do you give your clients? You know, Elsa, why don't you share a little bit about your artists? You know, when you sit down with them, do you have any sort of advice that you give them, say someone who's just starting off? You know, what do you do so they can preserve some of their earnings? Do you have these candid conversations with them?
Yes, I mean, to preserve the earnings, I think it's first, it's a very personal question, depends on the artist, and as Angie is saying, you know, you need to have a discipline and work it out, and that's something that whoever his business manager or financial planner could map it out for them. And I always give them an example or something that my grandfather told me since I was very young. He was a very small entrepreneur, and the best thing is to focus on your working capital, you know, in your day-to-day cash flow, and then move on from there.
Yeah, right. From my end, my advice is always to have like it's a basic equation. It is a 40-40-20, and I use that like every time that they earn $1, is 40 cents are for taxes, 40 cents are for their living, and the rest, the 20, is for savings. And I try to do that with them, even in some instances that they are lucky enough to have enough money. I try to switch the the last 40 and 20 so they can live with 20 and save 40. So it's like a rule of thumb in terms of economics for my artists. And I'm lucky enough that they are very disciplined and they don't have like luxury toys, and they don't have boats, they don't have jets, and at least for now. So yeah, I feel very lucky about that, because what they do, they invest in their careers. They pay like music videos, and they spend a lot of money on that, but they don't have like, they have real estate, they have some kind of investments, but they don't have like luxury toys. And for me, during these times of the pandemic, it's very good, because they have some savings and they can stay alive for probably the next 18 months. But when I was talking about before, I was talking about other people around in the industry that the income will be really affected, because if you're not touring, I'm not thinking about the artist, I'm thinking about those other persons, the crew members, the venues, and the people around the industry, and because the artists, they are, if they are disciplined and they have a good business management team and they have good lawyers, I think that they should be more than okay during these times. But the other people around and the artists are very aware of that, and I think that's one of the things that they are very calm in this situation, because they are seeing what's going on with their families. They are seeing what's going on with the crew members. They're seeing what's going on around the world. So they stay put. They are like thinking about the others. They are thinking about opportunities to share their goods. So I think that my advice will be always the 40-40-20. So you can be if you are in another situation like this one, hopefully not. You have your savings and you can still do your things for a long period of time.
Well, and to that end, I think it's important also when we're talking about working capital. At the end of the day, for a lot of these musicians, working capital is their talent. So I have at least 3 artists that have recorded a whole album during the pandemic, and have become extremely creative. There are other artists that have concentrated on developing their social media platforms. There's one artist that just concentrated on developing TikTok, which was very timely given the situation.
Right.
So I think, you have to use this time. And as a lawyer, I'll tell you that moving forward, we're all going to be looking at the force majeure clauses a lot more carefully.
Yeah, and to add to that, just on the creative side, as Angie's saying, like at least I can speak from my record company, we continue to support innovation and creativity. We were, just since the pandemic started, we have been very supportive to different initiatives, such as, for example, the first live streaming concert that was offered to the public was Juanes and Alejandro Sanz, that they were caught up because of a cancellation of a show in Bogota. Then we also supported initiatives like Sebastián Yatra's reading children's book sessions. And we just recently closed we're working with artists also to be able to monetize and close sponsorship deals. We just closed one with Chilean artist Cami in Chile, with a live stream event in Chile with Didi, which is a smart mobility application in Chile for staying at home music. So we continue to be creative. I think the community there's going to be something that's going to come up, and it's going to change the entertainment industry, I think.
And might I add, I think what, Elsa, you said is extremely valuable. Angie, what you said about artists, considering this is a business, and this is a moment where you can cultivate creativity, do really cool things and new things that are available in the setting that we're in. But having the business mindset too, or at least being, you know, curious about it and knowing that your, you know, your art is a business is super important. There have been just like countless inquiries, people that I have that have come out of the woodwork during the time and made me really busy because they're wondering, you know, what's going on with their sound exchange and what's going on with this big revenue stream. But, you know, a lot of, you know, maybe like when they're out touring and doing other things they're not thinking about. But during this time, this is a time where you're able to create, you're able to get your business in order, stuff that maybe you didn't do or think about before, and get down to it, get down to like the nitty gritty.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 'cause there's a lot of time on their hands right now, right? So a lot of folks are trying to figure out what they can do. And let this be a learning lesson, right? I mean, for themselves too, because, you know, those that maybe didn't prepare themselves well are now going to be able to look at this like a huge learning lesson to be able to, when they are busy, to always keep in mind and be mindful of what else there is out there, like someone like yourself, Matt, you know, that you are obviously there to help them out as well. But, you know, in terms of other artists, you know, what type of other investments do you think that you can offer them? What can they explore? Maria, do you want to share a little bit about what you would want to give advice to other artists right now and see what type of investments that they can get into at this point, so they know whenever there is another pandemic, or not even a pandemic, but even a recession, you know, that they're able to know to survive on their end?
Absolutely. That's the crucial part. I believe Angie touched it a little bit. Like, we had two different kinds of clients. We had the clients that are super developed, that they have a structure, that they have financial advisor, that they have an attorney, that they have a banker, and you have clients that are emerging and they don't have all that capabilities and they don't have that structure. Then it becomes more challenged. Then I always say also to the clients, even if you are an emerging client, emerging artist, we're trying to make it in the music industry, it's so crucial to save and to like sit with a business management, sit with a financial advisor and say like, okay, what are my personal goals? What I plan to accomplish in my next 3 years, and what I plan to accomplish in my next 5 years. If you are not honest with yourself, if you don't sit down and plan, how can anybody can help you to reach those goals? Then right now, I think most people, the ones that are very established, are living in their liquidity because they have assets, they have real estate, they have other sources that they can reach out to that. And they're focused now on their charities or their foundations because they had that ability. They are so structured that they have foundations, and they're doing a lot of work to help those that are in need. However, people that are not so established, that's my concern. The emerging artists that don't have savings, they don't have retirement accounts, they don't have IRAs, they don't have 401ks, they don't have anything that they can reach out to it. And that's what is so crucial, to save and to put that mentality and to stick to the budgets. I always talk to my clients, especially in business management and in that side. You always have to plan ahead of time. You cannot buy things that you cannot afford. And it's hard to get in that mentality because when you are creative, you always want to put all the money on the video. You want to make it like as amazing as it can be, but you sometimes get in loans that they are not very efficient or very effective for your needs, and the interest rates are high, and they end up to be in terrible situation because they cannot afford the loans, and at the end they end up losing the property, they end up using the car, they use everything, and it's sad to see that. And I think that right now, I think most of them, if you are not doing anything, if you are not touring, focus on your creative career, focus on making music, that's what you do. Focus on your, like they were saying that they were focusing the websites, marketing, all that, but most people are sitting with liquidity. Everybody wants to be liquid right now. Nobody wants to take up like risks and investments that in the long run is not gonna pay off. Some people are in very difficult situations, and they're trying to get loans based on their copyrights, based on their music that they're gonna collect in the future. tell them, be careful, read, sit with your attorney, make sure that you are reading all the information correctly, because this is the perfect timing to get people to take advantage of you if you don't read well.
You know, and sorry.
There's some equity investors that are approaching my clients, and I think my clients are just in such desperate need right now that they're willing to sell whatever, but they don't really realize that in the long run they are really quote unquote selling their ass, you know, because they're the value of what they're selling, the people are just taking advantage of them, you know, and, and they're preying on them and they're preying on their fears, and it's a very sad situation. But I think even before that, people now, I feel like people have now had time to think about their situation, and they should be more interested in protecting their copyrights and making sure that everything is buttoned up.
Oh yeah.
Because the day that, even if you do want to sell it, if it's not buttoned up, then it's not sellable.
Absolutely. I also have told them to make sure that you get focused on trust. If you have kids, what is gonna be the future, you never know, save for their education. It's a lot of other tools over there that we can have to help our clients to navigate this crisis. Other ones are investing in their merchandise. They see that as a strong source of income right now. Then they're investing some of their funds and develop more their merchandise and come out with new merchandise lines where it has been successful for some of my clients.
Oh no, I think we deal with two different avenues, right? Two different aspects. So you have your artist that's going to be very well equipped, very well knowledgeable, really wants to learn from everything from the very beginning to the end. But the ones that we do have to worry about are the ones that want everything instantaneously and are not thinking about the future. So those that are not thinking about the future, let this be a learning lesson. During this time is when it's the time that they really need to buckle down and start thinking about what their future should be, right? Absolutely. So there's so much to this, but in any case, I want to move on because I actually want to talk a little more about, you know, going into the royalties aspect. So Matthew, I want to talk a little bit to you, and I want to direct a question specifically about Sound Exchange. You distributed $1 billion of royalties to artists and labels last year. Can you explain a little bit to the audience what kind of royalties Sound Exchange distributed and the best practice for that?
Exactly. Yeah. No. So we were just talking about copyright. So Sound Exchange protects the copyright of the sound recording. So you have two copyrights in the music industry. You have the underlying composition and you have the sound recording. Sound Exchange is on the label side. So we protect the rights of you as an emerging artist, whoever you might be, to the top global star. And we protect the rights of the independent labels, you know, the ones that are just starting up, people that own their own masters. And we protect people like Elsa, like Universal Music. You know, we pay the majors, we pay the independents because they own the sound recordings, and we pay the artists that perform on the sound recordings. So just understand that, you know, what we were just talking about in terms of the value of what you have. If you're an emerging artist and, you know, you don't have the finance or the background to actually, you know, have business advisors and all these fancy, you know, sort of people to add to your team, you gotta start to think about what you own. What is it that you own from the beginning, you know, in terms of your song? Like if you wrote a song, that's yours. If you invested in the sound recording that you put out, that is yours, that is valuable. And, you know, what Angie just alluded to in terms of, you know, people trying to come and ask to purchase their copyrights, or you give them a loan on the copyright. You got to really think about these things before you do it, because there's so much value in your copyrights. Yeah, we might be going through desperate times right now, but right now is the time to get things buttoned up, to get, you know, the most that you can and maximize your royalties out of a specific type of revenue stream like Sound Exchange. You know, data is really, really important now, because, you know, back in the day, I mean, I remember being a kid and going to the store and buying a CD, right? Like that doesn't exist anymore. Everything's digital. Right. And so you have meta and the metadata that goes with the file, with, you know, digital files. So make sure you've got, you know, your album title, your artist, the name of the artist on there, the International Standard Recording Code, you know, which is a unique identifier for the sound recording. And you have to understand that those things have to go along with you to monetize your music, to monetize your copyrights.
And I think that, to your point, if I can, Matthew, I think it's like, for example, I was working with Alexis Fido and Sound Exchange, and you also want to check the metadata that is delivered to Sound Exchange, because sometimes people misspell it and they might put Alexis ampersand Fido, and it might not be, might not register to Alexis Fido. So you have to, you don't have to only register, but you really have to check the data and claim your data accordingly.
Exactly, Angie, that's a great point, because, you know, it looks like Alexis Fido and you know what it is, but when you get down to the actual symbols of what the data represents, you have to make sure that all of that is maximized, you know, because we get the data from the service providers, they're playing your music, but you got to check your statements and make sure what's on there and what you might be missing. It's very important.
And how can artists and labels take advantage of the new database that allows users to claim previously unassociated sound recordings?
So yeah, specifically last year we launched via our portal, our Sound Exchange Direct portal, we launched 2 really valuable tools for artists to be able to claim. We used to have people submit things on spreadsheets, and that for an artist, especially if you're beginning, is like a nightmare. It's daunting. They don't want to get, they don't get it, they don't want to get it. But this tool specifically makes it very friendly for the artist. And the first one is the Submit Recordings tool. So if you own your masters, you're going to want to use the Submit Recordings tool in your, you know, dashboard online. And like what I went over, like the International Standard Recording Code, all that needs to be included. So you can claim your rights on those masters. And then you have the search and claim for you as an artist. You know, if you're releasing music, make sure you're going on there and periodically checking, did Sound Exchange associate this? If it's not associated, you know, make sure it is, and make sure that the claims are in and they're matching other people's too. Like if you collaborate, I know Latin music is a cultivating bed of collaborations and people getting together. Make sure you're talking to each other, so that way your recordings aren't in conflict. You know, artists send in all this data, but even the claims percentages, if it's off even by 1%, it's going to go into conflict. So just make sure you're talking to each other and using, you know, the resources online that we have available at soundexchange.com. So that's the search and claim tool. So very, very important.
And adding to that, Matthew, I think especially for the producers that might be listening, when you produce something for an artist, chances are that the artist either doesn't know that you don't automatically as a producer get Sound Exchange, or they don't care. But to the extent that they don't know, that they need to sign a letter of direction for you to get your pro rata share, or your share, your equal share, not equal to the artist, but equal to the proration of what you're getting versus what they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And if you're doing a collaboration, and let's say there's 2 or 3 artists, then that producer has to get a letter of direction from each artist that is featured on the track.
Yeah, Angie, you're absolutely right. And that can kind of go with our question about what are revenue streams that, you know, creators aren't really taking advantage of today. And this is something that I haven't quite seen yet take off in the Latin music market, but we're on the cusp of it because people are learning more and more about it, and they're getting in touch with me and I'm showing them. But it's basically exactly what you explained, a letter of direction for the producer. Anyone that was involved in the sound recording, not just the producer, you know, arranger or mixer and engineer, they can come forward and ask the artist for this share that only comes from the artist's claim, and so from the artist share, and so they can claim that, and they do it through a letter of direction that we supply them. It's our template, and we interpret that as, you know, an assignment of royalties from the artist at a percentage to the producer, and producers can start taking advantage of that now, as soon as they can.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to add to that point Sorry,
Go ahead, Elsa.
on the legal side, because a lot of those splits and how you split those or who owns what, it starts for clarity also in how you draft the agreements at the beginning, and then you enter that data into the system, and then the system's processed. And that's the key to make it all flow.
And it's to
right?
everybody's
Smoothly.
benefit. No, and it's
And everybody's benefit, yes.
It's to everybody's benefit to, you don't think that because the artist signed the letter of direction that they sent it in. It's your money. Send in the letter of direction for yourself. It's nobody else's responsibility but your own.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Be proactive, right?
No, that's a great point, because the letter of direction, as long as it's signed and we get it, like if I get it in my inbox, I'll send it over to my team and we'll process it. It just has to be signed. But a lot of people think, well, okay, I mean, the artist is, you know, they'll do it for me, but a lot of times they don't. They'll sign it, but they don't. So I have producers calling me, asking me, I don't know if I'm seeing this. Well, we never got it. So what Elsa said, alluding to what she said, talk about it, work it out, do all of that, and then you execute. So that way you're all on the same page.
And
Oh,
just
right.
as
And
a
Elsa-
business, and just as a business standpoint too, like you should be having these conversations before
Exactly.
you release the song, because after you release the song, the leverage
It's
is on
the-
everybody everybody else's side, not yours. When you're the artist,
Right.
the producer, the songwriters, everybody wants for this song to come out because everybody benefits. But if you don't take care of this, either you'll have counterclaims or you'll be having to pay a lot more money than you would have originally had to pay if you had handled this ahead of time.
That's right.
Angie and I have seen this way too many times.
Yes. Well, you know, I wish we can talk about this because I think it should be a whole panel on just streaming and royalties, of course. I think that's such a hot topic that I wish I can just spend more time, because I know we're running out of time. So I'm going to change gears a little bit here.
Oh.
I know. Can you believe that? We're having too much fun.
I know.
So
Fine.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about money again, because I think that's such a hot topic. You know, we all obviously are dealing with our artists. Myself as a banker, then you have business managers, your attorneys. You know, you all have a good aspect of what it is clients are doing right and what they're doing wrong. So what's some of the common mistakes, errors that clients are making when managing their money? I know we talked a little bit about that, but I want to dig in a little bit further. You know, what are some of those things that you see your clients doing that are not necessarily correct, that you might want to kind of guide them better?
I would say that the first one is that they believe that that since they have shows every weekend, they can buy some toys, very luxury toys, and that they will have money the next weekend. So they don't plan ahead, because the money flows frequently, flows every weekend, every 3 days. So I would say that probably the biggest mistake is not saving. I think that's I would say that's the biggest mistake that the clients, because they are young, they do easy money, even that they are creating, they are working, but you know it's easier for them than for many other people around. And given that the situation that they can make money so easy, they don't think that they will be that there's any way that they can stop producing or earning revenues on a current on a ongoing flow. So I think that, as you were saying previously, this is going to be like a learning experience, not only for them but for many other persons that are around us, that the situation, the pandemic, will make many others to save and start thinking ahead about retirement, thinking about that they have there could be other situations similar to the one that we are living now, that shows will go away. And as long as they don't,
Right.
even that they create content and they are they have the streams and they have they keep earning revenues on a ongoing flow, the touring is the number one revenue. So that I think that the biggest mistake will be no saving and no thinking ahead about the future.
Well,
I would like to add.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Angie.
I think that the biggest mistake they make is when they enter into agreements, they enter into it as an individual as opposed to a company. I think that's
Right.
very important, that from the first day you create a company to furnish your services. So, and this is important for tax reasons. This is obviously important to the extent that you ever want to benefit from any government programs assisting small businesses. And it's important for liability reasons. Why? Because God knows, day of tomorrow, you get into a car accident, but your recording agreement is under your name. They can go after whatever amount of money.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, okay, let's say you do have a company, but do not intermingle your personal with your business. Have some structure. There has to be this is a vehicle. This is almost, you create a company. It's a fiscal entity. It's like a being. It's like a person that, you know, has the name of your company. Do not buy diapers with company money unless you're a babysitter. Okay, so that would be my first practical mistake.
I couldn't agree more with Angie. Is the lack of financial structure is unbelievable in the music industry. It's very few artists that have the tax structure and the financial advice in place. They always think of that as the last resources. They always get lawyers to read their agreements and to review their agreements, but they never get the business management, the right tax accountant, the right person to look after their finance. And if they cannot afford, at least get the knowledge. Ask questions.
Well, I always say, I always tell my artists, the folks that I deal with, at the end of the day, you need to know even who your banker is. Because when all of this is said and done, you need to know where your money's at. So it's super important to be able to know that as well, right? So, you know, I think we all bring up good points, and we're all here to basically help them out at the end of the day, right? I mean, we have only 5 minutes left on our panel. I can't believe that. But geez, I'm sorry,
I'm a panel hog. I'm a panel hog, I know.
It's okay, Angie. I think we're all having a good time with this, but I mean, I wish it could go on and on. But you know, I know one particular question that I did want to make sure to get out there was the U.S. tax ID and the importance of that, because if we're dealing a lot with, say, Latin artists that are abroad, not necessarily in the U.S., if an artist lacks the U.S. tax ID, I mean, Sound Exchange is taking 30%, obviously, from their royalties for tax withholdings. What sort of advice are you giving your clients? What would you tell them for those that are coming from abroad?
Yeah, planning. That's what is important. Don't get the tax ID after you get the check from Sound Exchange, because they always wait until the last minute. No, plan ahead, for getting a tax ID takes time, especially if you are not in the U.S. Then get, the IRS actually has a very good program where you can, if you are certified with the IRS to become a certified agency, you can actually provide certification that foreign pass, because in order to get a tax ID, you need to have your passport certified or send the original to the IRS, but it doesn't make any sense because most of these artists are traveling all the time. Then it's crucial that you get a certified agent, certified with the IRS, and they can help you with that. Then you just need a copy of the passport, send it to, in our firm, we do it all the time. Then they send us a copy of the passport, we certify, we process the W-7, where it has basic information, but do this in advance. Don't wait until the last minute, because it takes 6 weeks to process by the IRS. And then if you need liquidity and you're waiting for the tax ID in order to get the money for Sound Exchange, is very, very frustrating, especially now with the pandemic. The international taxation site is closed. Then I have artists that are waiting for Sound Exchange or for other checks, because otherwise they will hold 30%. Then it's crucial to get that tax ID way in advance before you even think about it or getting any money. If in the case that you get a 30% withholding, my advice is to file a tax return determine what is U.S. source income based on those royalties, and file a tax return and claim any tax monies back. Then get your tax advisor in place, get a person that knows about music industry. Don't go to the regular H&R blog because they're not gonna help you. They don't even know what is a 1042 is. Then please get the right advice. That's my my first comment.
And
I was going to add to that. That's how I would typically say, you know, because sometimes clients think that because you do it certain way, something that could be feasible, for example, Mexico, they think that it could be done in, say, Korea. And it doesn't work that way. And, you know, the tax laws are different in each country,
Right.
very complex. And for that, I cannot agree more than with Maria, that you have to get expert tax advice early.
Exactly. And not only that, to add to what you're saying, is because sometimes people think that, oh, I'm in Mexico, what I had to pay withholdings, I don't live there. Well, we don't come out with the rules. In Sound Exchange or any record label doesn't have the obligation to find and do the research for you. It's your obligation to find the tax research. It's not Sound Exchange or the record label. No, it's you. It should be your obligation to search for the right advice and to plan ahead of time.
And you don't even have to even really cross the border, because I mean, Che and I discussed this the other day, where for Puerto Rican companies, sometimes they treat them as a foreign entity, and they will also withhold 30%. So you really have to know how to maneuver that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Unless you
it
complete,
depends on the
unless
type
you
of
complete.
services too, depending in each country.
That's
so
the reason that tax treaties are crucial too. You have to know the tax treaties of each country to be able to advise these clients.
Yeah, but some people would think, hold on a second, I'm a Puerto Rican company.
Yes.
I have a U.S. tax ID. Why do I have to fill out a W-8 if I have a U.S. tax ID?
That's correct. And if if you don't
I'll stop I'm sorry about that, Jose. My apologies. You know, I've already been prompted. We have less than a minute at this point, but I do need to switch gears. It's such an awesome topic. Trust me, I wish we could continue talking about this because I have several different questions I didn't even get answered. Monday?
It should be another panel on that.
Sponsored.
Yes. Now we know, right? This is, you know what it is? At the end of the day, I just think these are the little pinpoints that both of us or all of us deal with. And it's, you know, we see this time and time again, so we know what it is that people are needing. But I want to kind of switch gears once again, and I'm going to switch gears for the audience questions. There's only 3 questions, but they're good questions. Antonio from Chicago wants to know, can you tell me where the money comes from? Wait, can you tell me the money that comes in from Sound Exchange? Actually, where does it actually come from is what he's asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So to go over exactly what we do, remember, we pay you as a sound recording copyright owner and as an artist. Now we license the services that play your music. These are digital transmissions in the United States that are non-interactive. Popular examples of these are SiriusXM, iHeartRadio, Music Choice, Pandora. Those types of services ask for the statutory license, which is what we give them. And in turn, they pay money, and there's like a percentage of their revenue that they have to pay over to Sound Exchange. We organize all those royalties, and then we pay them to 2 people, the artist on the sound recording and the owner of the sound recording.
Very cool. Okay, so Angel from Madrid asks, can you tell me a bit more about getting a CWA before doing dates in the US, when we are allowed to do dates again, of course?
Well, that's a question that it requires a little bit more time, but I'm gonna be very brief. Okay, yes, a central withholding agreement is available for all foreign artists performing in the US, and it's basically an agreement between the IRS, the foreign artists, and a CPA or business manager in the US or CPA firm. And basically we reduce the rate of 30% to a lower rate. And it's super, super useful tax tool to reduce tax liability in the US, especially if you're planning, if you have a cash flow concerns. Then my advice is to plan ahead of time, at least 60 days before the first show in the US. Then get a budget. It's super crucial. Get a budget, get 45 days in advance because we need to complete the applications. And I highly recommend that if you do this, to keep all the records in place, have good bookkeeping, good records, good invoices, because at the end of the CWA, if your CWA gets approved, we need to prove those numbers. Then we have to provide good records, accounting records, and work with your accountant that is specialized in central withholding agreements to help you to reduce the rate. But it's a very useful tool.
It is.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Maria. Carla from New York asks, when will it be obvious that I need to work with an accountant for my music career? Who wants to take that one?
I think that we were talking about that it's going to be since the very first day. You need a team. You need to team up, and you need planning. You need to plan ahead, even though that you are starting. I think that in most of the cases, many up and coming artists, they approach to our offices and ask for quotes. And if you know the business and you know the entertainment industry, and there are plenty of ways to help the client in terms of if they don't have money to pay at the right moment or in the beginning of the relationship. There is always a way. There's always a way. There's always a business manager that is able and would like to help, and also attorney. So that to be precise, you need an attorney, and you need an accountant since the get-go. Otherwise, it's gonna be
A world of hurt.
A world of, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, guys, this actually concludes our panel. Believe it or not, that was the last question. I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this panel. I think you guys all brought some awesome points for all our artists that are out there that are starting, if not those that have already become really established. This is all really good information, and I wish we could keep going. But I do want to say thank you on behalf of City National Bank. I also want to thank Industria Works, Nacional Records, for letting us all be a part of this panel. Thank you guys, and you all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank
Great
you.
panel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.